So starting the test drive in this ML350, again, the controls for this car are just very interesting. They remind me of how Mercedes got their reputation for being complicated vehicles to operate. And what I didn't mention was the CD, when the CD player's on here, you can only adjust your discs using this and only adjust the CDs. But when you're in the radio setting, then you can use this to go through your presets and all that. It's a strange system, but whatever. But overall, in terms of how this car drives, even with 93,000 miles, I was expecting something to be noticeably off, but that's not the case here. Now, the 3.5 liter V6, I like that engine from Mercedes for the most part, and those are the ones you tend to see with like 130, 140,000 miles before you have to do anything crazy with them. And the electronics also weren't as prone to trouble as some of the older Mercedes ones were. This one here, like in the older, like 02, 03 SL 500s, that'll cost you a pretty penny having to replace this radio here, but everything seems to be working on here pretty good. You have a little bit of fading on that inside of the screen there, which that tends to happen on these Mercedes radios, but other than that, everything is still working perfectly. The buttons are working, knobs are working. So I'm actually pretty impressed by that, again, with this being a 2011 Mercedes-Benz. But ride quality has been pretty good going down this rough patch of road here, which I've taken probably 1,000,000 times. Just very good ride quality. And with the V6, the all-wheel drive system does a great job at keeping you up to speed without necessarily throwing you one way or the other based on rear-wheel drive or front-wheel drive. But I have the cruise on now. So we can resume there, cancel there, and then just set it whenever. But I'm gonna give it a little bit of throttle here. Well, I'm gonna give it a lot of throttle actually as we get on the interstate. And I'll kind of give you my impressions on how it accelerates under hard acceleration. So quite impressive. Now what's great is this 7-speed, it was good to go without using the paddle shifters. It went from about 3,000 RPMs all the way up to that red line, and I was able to get that full brunt of the engine to get me up to speed. But ride quality is pretty, again, it's pretty nice coming down the interstate here. Probably a 9 out of 10 for me. What makes it great is I'm not feeling anything through the pedals. I'm not feeling anything through the steering wheel for the most part. Just a little bit of the road there, but normal. And then the seats are, so even though this is the MB Tech's, pretty fantastic feel through the driver's seat here. And then you can just go into manual mode whenever, and then just hold the plus paddle to go back into automatic. I will say having the, and I've complained about this from Mercedes for a couple years, just having the knobs here, the cruise control up here, and then the blinker all the way down here is kind of a nuisance, but something I'm sure if this is your main driver, you'll get used to, but just gets on my nerves. I'm gonna put the paddle shifters on here just to see how it does in city driving. Just if for whatever reason you wanna control the shift points yourself. But I love how it shifts because they're not snappy, but they're just very smooth. It's just, this feels like a flagship Mercedes-Benz SUV, just for 2011, how everything is. Now, of course, we're used to the GLSs, we're used to the G-Wagons now, like that's kind of your pinnacle of luxury. But this was just, it really was a great SUV. And you see a lot of these with miles on them. And having that naturally aspirated V6 mated with the 7-speed, the reliability was a lot better than what people were used to from Mercedes back then. Now you do have a few kind of quality control issues there, mainly around that, I don't know what that is, around that headlight control there, but I mean, everything else, for this to have almost 94,000 miles, everything's working perfectly. And that's surprising. Now, one thing I did not mention earlier that I just found out trying to adjust the seat, you actually have a power headrest. So pulling up on the seat back button, now you can lean the seat back and forth, but if you push up and down on it, that controls the headrest. Whereas in the newer Mercedes, you have your own button for the power headrest. So that's pretty neat to have that as well. And again, just a very luxurious SUV that you can get pretty cheaply, and it shouldn't be hard to keep this one up and running. And again, for the price, Auto Collection of Murfreesboro has it priced pretty competitively, but I'll leave a link below to the vehicle in the description below if you're interested, just for your own curiosity. But a great SUV on the used car market, in my opinion. And this will bring me to the end of my review of this 2011 Mercedes-Benz ML350 4MATIC.